I think the coolest part about being a parent is I get to see what I would have looked like if someone loved me. like you're like
trauma bonding is the best kind of bonding.
Yeah, but you're like, oh, I would have been like happy as hell.
I'd have been way better.
Yeah. My body wasn't stuffed with GMOs. I probably would have cracked 5'10". Who knows? Like red dye 40.
I'm 5'10". I'm 5.
You are. Red dye 40 nerfed me. You could have been 6 foot. That's what I'm saying. Like
it would have been way better.
If I wasn't eating Cheetos and cheese balls, I could have been, this tall. But, the good Lord didn't give me all his gifts as the way he did you. This episode is sponsored by Remedical. Hey, veterans. Ever feel like navigating the VA disability claims process is like trying to march in quicksand? I don't know how much you know about quicksand. It's not great to march through. Well, here's some good news. Remedical, that's Romeo Echo Echo Medical, is here to support you as you march right out of that mess. And you can keep moving forward. Whether it's a first-time claim or an increase in your existing status, Remedical connects you with independent providers who can document your symptoms with the precision of a sniper. Only Carlos Hathcock is a better sniper than them. They provide the accurate and thorough medical evidence you need to support your VA claim. With a network of experienced physicians, Remedical has helped over 75,000 veterans. Can you believe that, Blas? 75,000 veterans.
That's a big number.
That's a big number, but we're going to blow right past it. They'll explain all your options before you even think about paying anything. No more mystery, just clarity and competence. At the After Action Podcast, we're not just fans of Remedical, we're customers too. Blas, what's it like working with Remedical?
Listen, Zach, I'm not going to lie. When you presented the option of going to Remedical, I was super skeptical, man. I was already done with the VA process. They threw me through the ringer, had me waiting for who knows how long. Anywhere from 6 to 12 months is what I experienced. I know there are veterans out there who have probably experienced a lot longer. When you had mentioned Remedical, like I said, I was skeptical. I gave them a call, though. Like you said, free consultation. I had nothing left to lose. I picked up the phone, gave them a call, told them exactly what I was going through and the troubles that I was experiencing. They said, no problem. Just send us over your medical records. We'll take a look at them. And if we can help you, we'll reach back out. Not even 24 hours later, I got a phone call telling me that my ratings were not sufficient to what the standard actually was, and that if I wanted to move forward, they'd be glad to help me. Almost 12 months later, I finally got my rating back from the VA, where I couldn't be more happy with the results. If you're out there and you're struggling and you're sick of running through the VA process and you're tired of getting a runaround, go to Remedical. I promise you they'll help you and they'll guide you through the process with no pressure and get you the rating you deserve.
I couldn't think of a better personal endorsement than that right there. I got to watch him go through the process myself, and it has been a life-changing outcome for him and his family. Don't settle for frustration or unfavorable decisions. Check out the link in the description for a free consultation and $200 off Remedical services. It's time to get what you deserve. Hey guys, Veteran with a Sign here, and I've got something game-changing to share with you. If you're a protector, a parent, or just someone who wants to be ready for whatever life throws at you, this is for you. The USCCA just dropped an unbelievable deal on self-defense training that you can't afford to miss. Here's the scoop. They've launched a new site where you can go sign up for over 1,600 in-person self-defense courses nationwide. And the kicker? They're 100% free through the end of the year. That's right, no strings attached. This is your chance to learn real-world self-defense skills from experienced instructors in your own community. Whether it's building a home protection plan, mastering situational awareness, or diving deep into the laws of self-defense, these expert-led classes are designed to give you the confidence and tools to protect yourself and your loved ones. Don't wait. Go to USCCA.com/veteranwithasign right now. Find a course near you and sign up today. Opportunities like this don't come around often, and spots will fill up fast. Take action now, invest in your safety, and level up your skills. That's USCCA.com/veteranwithasign to get started today. And welcome to another edition of the After Action Podcast. All of them are special, but this one's really special because I'm in Virginia. I'm on the road.
Special, what do you mean?
because my mom said I'm pretty special.
She was right. Also, if she made you, she had to be quite a babe. Sorry, don't hit her mom. But I mean, I look at you, and I know why you got a TV deal from the History Channel. That's all we're gonna say. Quick teaser. But it's special because anytime I get to sit down with someone, I'm genuinely excited. I'm especially honored and privileged today to sit down with the man, myth, legend, Ronnie Adkins.
Well, thanks for having me on your show, man. Thanks for coming out here. Fancy meeting you here in the Funker studio, but
Fancy, yeah.
But it kind of speaks volumes to you coming here to do our work. To you coming here in the Funker530 studio, because we don't do a lot of episodes, right? So making the trip out to my home to do that, to share your story, that does speak to you, and I'm appreciative that you did that.
I'm going to try and accept that the best way I can and say thank you. But it's just, we've known each other for a long time. We're always doing stuff. And I hate that we have only got a chance to hang out at work functions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like SHOT Show's a job. Like you're doing something the whole time you're there. And
SHOT Show sucks. Let's just be honest.
I hate it. If I'm every year I go less, and I will go less this year more than ever. Like I cut.
Yeah, if I could do as little at SHOT Show whilst getting the chance to see everybody that I don't get the chance to see, that's at this point why I go to SHOT Show. It's most certainly not to peruse, because I don't know that there's ever been a SHOT Show that I've actually gotten to enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, this year was fun because we all got to hang out.
Yeah.
It was me, you, and King Pix Media, Tyler, all the unsub people. All that was great. But aside from that, I was like, I don't want to walk out there. It's not bad. It's too much, right? It's Vegas in general is too much.
Vegas is not my deal, man.
It's not. And it sucks because I thought it would be, because I watched that historical document. You know about historical documents, National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation. And what? I thought it was
documentary, yeah.
The documentary, yeah, about, first off, no one gives the Griswolds the flowers they deserve for how dedicated that man is to making sure his family's taken care of, right?
That dude took care of his people.
He took care of his people, but Vegas Vacation, I thought it was going to be fun Vegas, cool Vegas. It's not.
No, it's dirty and it smells.
We're literally inside the whole time.
Yeah.
And then there's just so much input 24/7. But I mean, there were some fun memories. I blew. I didn't really blew. I lost $300 on roulette.
Oh, because you kind of paused when you said I blew.
Regrettable. Millennial pause strikes again. No, I mean, I lost $300 on roulette, but I played for 4 hours. So did I really lose? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you got time out of that.
That's no, I took. It was the same week that TikTok was getting ready to close out, so they were maxing out payouts to everyone, and I saw I had $320 deposited from TikTok, and I was like, I'll just use that. When it's gone, it's gone. And I stood up at the end of I was actually kind of excited to be done because I've been there so long that I was airport sweaty.
Ugh.
Yeah.
It's a sticky sweat, but it's not, you're not dripping sweaty.
Yeah. And it's weird because you shouldn't be.
It's like a grime.
Yeah. And whenever it happens to me, I'm always like, I shouldn't be this sweaty in public. For no reason. If you saw me at the gym, you're like, that's fine. That makes sense.
Yeah. Or
when you were, putting me through a workout that we'll get in what you were working out over there. That was all mental, nothing physical going on. That makes sense. We were sweating then. That's fine. But just you look at the surface. I'm sitting next to my friends in a leather chair, and then I stand up.
I have no business. I was going to say I have no business being moist right now.
I was like, ugh. And I was like, Cody, I'm going to bed. I was like, I'm going to bed. I don't want to
stick to the chair just a little, the fake leather chair.
Yeah.
You don't slide off of it because the moisture friction.
It was not fun. And then there was, what was weird is we'd been there so long that stuff didn't seem to make sense, but it did. And I looked out of the corner of my eye and I go, that's the lead singer of Rascal Flatts. It was. He just showed up to SHOT Show for some reason.
Was it really?
Yeah. He's right next to us. And I was like, Brandon. And he goes, yeah, that's him. And I go, life is a highway. And then I hit Cody, and we all at one point like all looked at him like this, like because you're like
Just see what he
just see what he would do. And I'm sure he was like, "There's a bunch of weirdos that all look like different versions of the same person."
Yeah,
looking at me.
they're all wearing their flannels.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. We all had we all had flannels and stuff. That was fun. But what's fun about those things, and we did the Creator Range Day, the last one ever with Mr. Demolition Ranch.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're done. There's all sorts of plans in the future, but as far as at the
Being
ranch,
hosted there, though, I feel privileged to just be a part of getting a chance to go to those.
it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Like, I mean, people don't know it until they get there, but it's really a networking event
It really is.
that we've like hidden machine guns at.
Yeah. It's
Like-
a networking event with machine guns.
Yeah, like light machine gun, heavy networking.
Yeah.
And it's just fun, but like it's rare to be able to spend time with people doing this stuff, interacting with them, because like we're always going. I mean, you have 7 jobs that I know of. You're doing Funker, you're
Yeah.
doing National Gun Rights Association. What else? You've got,
I still wear the uniform.
you still wear the uniform,
Yeah. I've got my own business, my own content, my own work.
your own business, your own content, your own work. That's 5, right?
Yeah.
And then you also have a history show on the History Channel.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there's blip, blip, blip stuff we can't talk about.
A little bit. So I still do a little bit of consulting in cybersecurity as well. Mm-hmm. But then being a dad, being a husband, trying to balance all of those things at all times, you know full well what it's like to. There's never a limit to the amount you can do as a dad or a husband. So.
Yeah.
There are typically for work, there's things, you accomplish certain things through the day, but when it comes to being a dad, I've got 3 girls. There's no real stop to the stuff that you could be doing to be better at that.
Well, and you have teenage daughters and then a 1-year-old?
Yeah, I've got a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old. So one of them just became a teenager, a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and then a 1-year-old. That's a SHOT Show baby.
Yeah.
So I took them as it's a SHOT Show.
Not a COVID baby, SHOT Show.
2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think she's close to a shot, maybe a birthday baby, which is immediately following SHOT Show. So close enough. But we did like the whole town nightclub thing, and the missus and I both realized we were like, this is not for us. We gave it a shot. We gave it a go. But the nightclub scene, the bump scene, not my thing.
Not your thing. It's important to know these things.
Yeah.
It's important to have clarity.
I tried.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is like, it's funny because you're at like both ends of it. Because I'm further down the line. I got 15 and 17. So I'm in kind of like a retrograde status. So what that means is like I'm always in the background. They don't really want me to kind of make my presence known too much.
Yeah.
But they always want me there, but they don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And so it's always kind of weird, but it's a fun dynamic. It's just like it's shifting because like I used to be like, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And now I have to like let them figure out things on their own. And I kind of hate it.
But yeah, I mean, what's being a dad if you're not if you're not hyped up and ready to help this small human become better than you were, right? My kids are so much better than I am.
Yeah.
They are better people than I am.
Mine too. I didn't want to say this to your children, but when I was their age, I was like 10 years old. I started like experimenting with drugs and alcohol.
Oh, for sure.
Like, and it was just because I was super cool, unlike your kids and my kids too. But no, I wasn't cool at all. I was unsupervised. You had older kids that were doing stuff. So like, started smoking, dipping, and then like you're on a path. And 10 years old, like, you steal a cigarette from your old man or like get some dip from somebody. And then like you're doing all sorts of stuff you shouldn't be doing as a child. And so like, it's so funny because to see you're in the same place of like, you're having to be a little bit passive, right? You gotta be in the backseat. They're teenage girls, but you've also got like a baby,
daddy,
who's like has like at any given moment she could have like a knife or like a chew toy. Like she's just. I know. It's so funny to see like the duality of like a baby gate and then teenagers. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what makes that really cool, and obviously that one, the youngest was a bit unexpected, right? I wouldn't say
Happy, beautiful
I
miracle.
wouldn't say wholly unexpected. We kind of just pulled the
I get what you're
goalie.
saying. Yeah.
We kind of
what's up,
pulled the
bro.
goalie, and we were like, "Well, what happens, happens," you
Yeah.
know. And it happened. Let's just say everything works and the plumbing is effective.
My man.
But what makes that so cool is, her older sisters. They're not ever going to. My wife is a fantastic woman. And
Incredible family.
Really, thank you. Really grew up having to be for her younger sisters almost a mother figure. And my youngest daughter's older siblings will never have to fill that mother's role in the way that my wife did, but they still get to help. They get to learn. They get to see what it's like to have a toddler, a child, and seeing them kind of fall into this almost part of the support structure for this little baby that we have in our house for the first time in 10 years has been awesome, because you get concerned that, the middle daughter, she's not going to be the baby anymore, and she cried. She was like, I'm not the baby anymore. She's probably the biggest help, to be honest with you. She absolutely loves that little girl. And everybody just kind of gels around her. And I got to tell you, the little one, the world is going to be hers one day, because everybody around her is just showing her how to succeed at every given moment.
Yeah. Well, they come by it honestly. They get it from two incredible parents, is what I've noticed so far.
Well, we do our best. Nothing's perfect.
Nothing's perfect, but let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. As two white trash people, the hardest part about it is that you don't have any examples to go off of. So you're just really throwing spaghetti against the wall, and you're like, okay, that worked.
Society had certainly set me aside.
Yeah. Right.
Set us, my family, and I aside. I did not grow up affluent. We'll put it that way. Grew up in a trailer park in Middle Virginia, the only one in like 3 counties.
Was it like a KOA, like attached to a KOA, like a campground?
No, it was a mobile home community.
Well, there's a chain, at least back home. There's KOA campgrounds.
No, ours wasn't a KOA. It's another brand. And I mean, it's the only one around, and my mom still lives in the same trailer that I grew up in, so I don't want to burn that.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's still there. It's 20 miles from here. And she worked. She carried me on her back, working at like Fashion Bug, Dollar Tree, retail. She ended up getting hurt working in retail. So then she became a special ed bus aide. The ladies that keep the special ed kids from throwing. Can I curse?
You can say whatever you want.
From throwing shit at each other, because that happens. A lot.
They can't help it. Yeah.
So she became a special ed bus aide. The bus crashed. She broke her femur, and now she can't work again. It's my stepdad. So I never knew my actual dad. I call him my sperm donor. I don't know. He fucked off with like my mom's best friend early on in life. I think I met him when I was real little, because we were still close to my sperm donor's family. Like my mom was still friends with like his brothers and shit, and he tried coming around. But my stepdad, hard dude, grew up an iron worker. Like his first job, 14, he became an iron worker and just literally never stopped doing that until quite literally the day that he died. Like he woke up the morning that he died to do maintenance, heavy blue collar work for the trailer park. He had gotten his job, and it was honestly like a godsend for him. He just walked out back and he was at work. Yeah. He got up one morning to, plow in the winter. Came back home after doing that, laid down, woke up, pulled a cigarette out of his pack, and dropped dead.
Lord have mercy.
Literally worked until the day that he died.
How old were you when that happened?
This was only 3 years ago. 3 years ago. Right now, I was actually in this room, sitting right over there when I used to have that PC and all in here. I was playing video games, and my mom called me and was like, actually, my mom called Amanda. I don't know why she didn't call me. My mom called my wife anyway. And my wife comes running downstairs and like rips my headphones off. She's like, my stepdad, your dad your mom's doing CPR on your dad. I was like, what? What do you mean just doing CPR on him? Like, is she just like doing CPR on him to do it, like practice run?
Yeah.
So I get in my truck and I probably set a land speed record from here to there. It's about 20 miles. I think I made it in 13, 14 minutes. And it was snow on the ground. It was not safe.
Yeah.
My mom is at the end of the driveway, just in tears. I had passed the ambulance. He coded again at the hospital by the time I got her up there. I mean, she had done CPR on him for like 20 minutes.
That's incredible.
And my family's always been about like, so medical, my grandmother was like, they have these like classes that you can take as civilians to become medical first responders and stuff. Like, I don't know what the right terminology for it is. But you can get this certification that says, hey, I choose to provide aid if I come across a scene. I am trained in CPR, defibrillators, basic trauma, stuff like that. So my grandma did it, my mom did it, I did it early on. And I got to tell you, man, that was probably the hardest thing to go through because my stepdad and I, we did not have a good relationship growing up. Like, he taught me all the wrong things to do. Let's put it that way. I don't mean to like drag this down at all, but while we're on the topic, one of my earliest memories of him is I'm sitting in the bathtub and I'm young, probably 8, maybe 7, 8, something like that. It's early enough that I can remember it vividly, but not so early or so late. I'm sitting in the bathtub and I'm looking out the door into the hallway, and there was a long hallway there. And I remember my mom saying, stay in here, take your bath, baby, everything's fine. She goes back out, turns right. I see my stepdad go this way, follow behind her. And I see him come back into frame this way. And then I see my mom's hair in his hand. And then I see my mom with him. And that was life growing up for me. Right. By the time I got old enough, that kind of stopped pretty quick. He learned that I played sports all through high school. There came a point that something kind of turned on me that was like, or in me that wasn't going to happen anymore. And I'll never forget, I was making eggs one time and he was a bunch of beers in. Everybody has that story that's like, a 6-pack by 9 a.m. I believe them because I remember him doing that. I mean, he is beers in by 9 a.m. I'm making eggs and he just walks up behind me. He's like, whose eggs are those? And I was like, the fridge's eggs? Like, I don't know. They're the eggs that are in the fridge. And he was like, whose eggs are those? And he was like,
giving you that.
He was trying to tell me something. That I didn't ask him for the eggs. And I was 16 or so.
Yeah.
And I looked at him. I had this damn, pan full of eggs. And I was like, they're my eggs now. These are my eggs now. And that was the first time I ever fist fought somebody that was an adult.
Yeah.
The reason I tell that story is by the time I had kids, he had gone to jail. He had sobered up. He became the greatest grandfather and the greatest thing that I ever could imagine to be a father to me, to my kids. There's a picture hanging on the wall upstairs in my kitchen. It is the shittiest drawing of a couple eggs, a piece of toast, and the sun. Somehow there's a sun in there. The day before he had that heart attack, he was over here for my middle daughter's birthday. He painted that with her as Poppy. And that's what they know. And that's what I remember of his, not what I grew up with. So that's why I don't think I've ever told that kind of story in a path. But society, for me, for my family, at least it felt like it, had set us aside. My car, I had literally had half of a car all through high school. I drove a 1994 Honda Civic. It had no rear quarter panel because it got ripped off before, but we bought it from a family friend, and it got me the 4 miles to the school and back. I was made fun of for that, being the kid from the trailer park, driving half a car. If it wasn't for the Army, if it wasn't for, that woman up there, the mother of my kids, I wouldn't have any of this. None of it.
We say society has set you aside. Do you feel... Theo Vaughn says this. He said nobody cares about poor whites. Do you ever feel that way?
Absolutely.
Yeah, me too.
I certainly did. Right? It didn't feel like there was...
Not saying there's not white privilege and stuff like that. That's not what I'm going to go into. I'm just saying, like,
No, it's
no
different.
one cared.
It's different though, because so if you're of ethnic minority, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then people are going to say, "Yeah, see, minority, poor, yeah, that's society for you." But when you're, and this is all across America. This is, I mean, we can take a half a mile drive down the road here, and you're going to find a situation that is not unlike mine.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see poor. Caucasian, white, whatever you want to call it, it's just, it doesn't really register in the same way. So, it's not like it's an affirmation that society has set aside an ethnic minority, but there are an overwhelming amount of people that are going through poverty situations, and they are most certainly not, and statistically you can look at it, all minorities. Mm-hmm. There are an enormous amount of all races, colors, and creeds, religions, that are here in America right now that are living in poverty situations. And that's the reason that you see this, I don't like the terminology around it, but this America First movement.
Yeah.
That's the reason you see that, is we've gone generation after generation of that same thing, the wage gap getting wider. I shouldn't say the wage gap. The 1% becoming smaller and smaller while the rest of us are just still, fighting tooth and nail.
Yeah.
I don't have a degree, right?
Yeah.
I finished high school 270th out of 274.
Hell yeah.
I took the ASFAB. I got into the 90s of the ASFAB, right? I don't know what it was in school, but I was just a bad kid. We'll just put it that way. The Army gave me a lot and put me in a position where, I generated these skills that I could use to put my family in a better situation, but I didn't inherit anything. Put it that way. So at times, I feel like there is a certain caste of poor whites that are forgotten about.
Yeah.
And you see that, so Appalachia is, we're right in this.
I think it stems from most of it's mental health and addiction, right? Like, we've talked about this before, like I told you, it's like, if you got it, you can spot it. Your thing is my thing. Like, my old man didn't find a beer he couldn't say no to, or, someone he didn't want to hit. Like, and like, it's hard to try. And my thing is, like, I look back on it, I'm like, why didn't anybody give a shit? Like, it's like we were struggling. And then you realize that, like, there's no one else who really knows how to escape it. It felt like we couldn't reach terminal velocity. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, almost there's a glass ceiling, every turn.
And like all the suggestions to me, like, weren't the best suggestions of like how to like my grandmother at the time. I mean, it's a really good plan, but she was like, you should get a trade, like be a plumber, be a painter or something like that, carpenter, whatever. Do a trade like that, and then like have like a side gig, or get a government job and then have a side gig. Like, everything was like, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, but like everyone I knew and everyone that she knew who had those things, they were all in the same place we were. You know what I mean? So like, even the ideas weren't like high, lofty ideas. It was just kind of like, this is what we do. And that was what I started to resent about my family situation, is like, not only did no one really care, no one knew how to change it. And I was like, okay, so what do we do? Go to college? I don't know. No one's ever been to college. Why do you go to college? They didn't know. They know what scholarships were, the GI Bill. And so that's why I was like, I'm choosing the Marine Corps. I'm choosing the military, because it does change your life, and it allows you opportunities that were not even ever achievable before.
No, I would have nothing if it was, and all throughout, there was a movement under Biden, and I thought it was astoundingly stupid that, I will not serve in this military anymore. I'm like, no, I still absolutely will recommend it to a perspective, to a certain perspective, right? Because regardless of who was in office, the skills that the military gives you, what you take from it.
Yeah.
Right. So you can join the military, you can get pushed around, you can get, but what you take from the military is entirely your prerogative and up to you.
That's the truth.
So yes, if my daughter came to me tomorrow and said, Dad, when I'm old enough, do you think it's okay if I join the Army, the Coast Guard? If I could go back, and I would do the Coast Guard, by the way. The Coasties are awesome.
Me too. And they have like legit the best bases.
They're
in like pretty cool places.
It's so dope.
Yeah.
Right. The best ad ever was that Narco sub ad
Yeah.
where he jumps on it and he's like banging on it. I think every podcast I've been on, I talk about that because it's such a representation of what the attitude to be in the military should look like.
Yeah.
Like that's a Coast Guardsman, but look at that fucking dude.
Yeah. Look at that, bro.
That's a grown man jumping on that damn sub.
On a homemade sub that's made out of hopes and
Yeah,
dreams.
that's fucking a paper mache sub,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
And
yeah.
he hopped on that thing like it was one of those rodeo clown horses or whatever at the stupid shitty bars, and he rode that bad boy till it closed.
Yep.
That was a gangster.
Yeah.
And that's the attitude.
Full kit.
Yes.
In the ocean, by the way. Like
Yes.
the ocean.
Yeah, like not a puddle. Like
Yeah.
he falls off of that, he's gonna sink.
That's it. It's
and
a wrap.
And he jumped on that with his balls clanking and got that fucking job done. Like it's not the kit that would have sunk him. It's
Yeah.
the two kettlebells dangling between his legs. I mean, I'm being funny, but like that's the attitude in every position in the military that has to be there. And I can see every parent says stuff like this. I can see that attitude in my oldest daughter, definitely.
Well, yeah, they come from you. That's the thing, because you get to see what I think the coolest part about being a parent is I get to see what I would have looked like if someone loved me. like you're like
Trauma bonding is the best kind of bonding.
yeah, but you're like, oh, I would have been like happy as hell.
That'd have been way better.
Yeah. My body wasn't stuffed with GMOs. I probably would have cracked 5'10". Who knows? Like red dye 40.
I'm 5'10". I'm 5.
You are. Red dye 40 nerfed me. You could have been 6 foot. That's
Hey,
what I'm
man.
saying. Like
It would have been way better.
if I wasn't eating Cheetos and cheese balls, I could have been, this tall. But, the good Lord didn't give me all his gifts as the way he did you.
No,
When did you enlist though? When did you make this decision? When did you hear the call to serve?
Well, all through high school, I was in the junior ROTC, JROTC.
What's
right?
that like? I don't know anyone who's actually done it. Because
I
every
actually-
school I went to, it wasn't funded, so that's why.
It's a double-edged sword. It got me fucking smoked in basic training because I went into basic training thinking I knew everything. I already knew how to tie, a Swiss seat. So we got to the rappel tower, and I was like, nope. Tied my Swiss seat. I can still do it today. And the drill sergeant, he didn't even check it. He was like, okay, that's fine. Go on. And if it busts, it's on you. So had I not tied it well enough and would have fallen out of this thing, I would have died.
Yeah, this would have been a way different show.
But it kind of on the one hand, it was an opportunity to do some really, really cool things. So I was a part of our honor guard. We were one of the only high schools in the state that was certified to do veteran funerals. So I played trumpet and band all through middle school and high school. I played taps for over 40 veteran funerals. I've folded more flags probably than I can even count. I can take you through every aspect, at least for the Army, of 3-22.5, which is the drill and ceremonies manual, and that's where all of the the regulations are for what you're supposed to do for military funerals. So you've seen the Marine Corps spinny rifle thing, their drill team, right?
Silent drill team,
Yeah.
Not spinning rifle thing, the best.
Well,
so would say it's the best. Yeah, it's when it's done right.
the Marines are literally the best. Literally the best. They do shit that you just watch and you're like, that guy's gonna die. Like one guy is 20 yards in front and he's taking a rifle with a bayonet on it. He's just hucking it over the entire platoon. So we had our version of that, which was really awesome because those guys were like our heroes. We would go and watch them, and but the honor guard stuff, that was something else, man, because it kind of connects you to where I now focus on like veteran issues. It connects you to that really, really early, right? So JROTC was actually really awesome. It also allowed me to learn a lot about the Army specifically. It's probably influenced, my whole family's a Navy family. So it allowed me, it probably swayed me away from the Navy quite a bit since it was an Army JROTC program. And
boy, did you dodge a bullet. What?
Or some dicks.
I was just talking about like being on a ship forever. I was just talking. That just seems.
Keep in mind, my whole family's Navy, so I'm allowed to say that.
You can say whatever you want. This is a free country. No, I did 30 days on a ship, and I was sick the entire time.
Was it the motion of the ocean or the motion of the ocean?
So yes, it was. It was. Oh man, that was really good. Well, we were in coffin racks. I didn't tell you this story, but like you reminded me of it. So it was the 24th MU, so we had to do like 30 days. And if you don't have a job on the ship, everyone hates you. And that's basically what Marines are. We're like in the way. They're like gangway or sick bay. And like one time I walked into a chief's nest and I didn't know. I just thought it was like a bunch of boomers in like pajamas. And walked in there like, hey, it's a chief's nest. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. And they were like, get out of here. We have coffee cups we don't clean. I'm like, that's gross. And like, there's all this weird stuff. But I was in a coffin rack, bottom bunk, so I'm a boot, and I'm reading a book. I'll never forget. I went to turn the page. I had to do this. And I went, I've really made a wrong decision.
Because the bunk is so like...
It's so tight that I couldn't turn the page with the book on my chest. So I had to fold it flat, fold it, and turn the page. And I was just like, you're the dumbest person of all time.
This is really stupid.
Yeah, there's no iPods, none of that. This is 2007, right? I was just like, but that's what I was referring to. You were referring to something else, but you can say whatever you want. I love it.
My brother-in-law joined the Navy. He's I don't know, 7-8 years younger than I am. So I was an NCO by the time he joined the Navy, and it was actually the proudest moment ever because my wife shared a little bit about her family's story, and it's not one of affluence either. Certainly not. My wife, inner city, Kensington Avenue, Philadelphian, or whatever, and then moved out here when she was like nearly a teenager. So she spent her formative years understanding what like hepatitis needles looked like.
And it's only gotten worse.
Yeah, it's not better.
It's like I could fix it in like 20 seconds. I would take Agent Orange and just spray Kensington Avenue with it, and like literally watch everyone leave. It's great. They live stream it on most people don't know this. They live stream it on YouTube, and it is people talk about it is literally an open air drug market. So Channel 5 covers it really well.
There's a fine line between confidence and hubris.
Okay,
and I poke that line all the time. She's an Eagles fan, right?
Yeah,
I grew up with the Redskins. I grew up here, Virginia.
Aren't they changing that back? Is that a thing?
No, they did. So they did get the logo back, I think.
Because the family was like, bro, what the fuck? What do you mean? Like, they could have just kept the logo and been like Washington whatevers. But imagine being like, dude, that's granddaddy. Yeah. You know? And then they're like, what? Where'd he go? And they're like, oh, it's over now.
No, I mean, there were a lot more people than people will give credit that were still really supportive of the Redskins logo, the Redskins name. I don't want to get into it, to be honest, because frankly, I don't care enough. Like it's not my fight. I'm not that much of a diehard fan that I'm gonna like fist fight some dude to keep the name. Like it's just
I'm kind of that way with sports, except for the UFC.
Yeah, that one's different. Traditional boxing is a little bit more my game, but I like combat sports are my jam these days.
Same. Like people were watching the Masters on my way here, and they're like, "Are you watching it?" No. And I was like, "I could care less."
Absolutely,
I love playing golf. I love going to Topgolf. I do not like watching people play a sport for the most part at all. Like, it's
No.
like, I'd much rather be doing this myself.
Yeah.
Like, the end.
Yep. So, but the Philadelphia, so
Yeah.
Eagles versus Redskins. At the time, it was still the Redskins.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna wear my Redskins jersey to the link.
Yeah.
Keep in mind, so my wife is pregnant,
Okay.
right, with our first daughter.
Yeah.
Right, and I, at least that would, I think she was pregnant at the time. We might not have known. She'd be able to tell you the better on the timeline. Like, she remembers shit that I don't understand.
Yeah.
How it's possible she remembers like dates and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what's?
That's because they want to bring it up when you do something bad later. That's what my wife is.
I swear, there's a notebook somewhere.
Yeah, February 2010. What?
I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday.
You're so pretty.
Like, wow, is your hair? Sometimes I'll compliment her hair.
Yeah.
Because one time I didn't, and she got her hair cut, and it went like all day. Like, I had noticed something was different.
Yeah.
But
You're like, what's different about you?
But these days, I'm just like, hey, your hair looks nice, and she'll just do like, oh, nothing different.
Yeah.
But one day I'm gonna catch you. See, I'm like, I got it cut. I'm like,
Yeah. Well, you know what that's called? That's called a canon event. You didn't compliment her hair, and so you shifted timelines. Like, you were on a path, and it's like, now you're over here.
Anyway, nothing happened with that, but confidence and hubris or something.
What'd she say when she saw you in that jersey? She's like, what the
No, so she kind of, it's funny because I had just returned from my first deployment. No, so yeah, I had just gotten back from my first deployment, I think, and I remember getting like close to where she grew up because her like family friend still lives in the house next door.
Yeah.
Like, and I rolled the window down, we're cruising, and gunshots. I was like,
the city of brotherly love.
cool.
Yeah.
And
The North definitely
and she's just like
is
playing
great.
on her, playing on her phone.
She's taking a nap.
It's just, she's fine.
Good to be back in the home of sheets.
I remember just rolling the window back up like, yeah, all right.
Well, now I got to tell you my first Philly story. It's not the story I told you earlier, but I was there for like some type of veteran like thing with the boot campaign. We would go around and like I would speak when they had this partnership with Shiner Beer, and I'd be like, hey, I'm a veteran. You buy this beer, it helps me, like, and so I do those things. But I showed up my first time in Philadelphia. I'm like, okay, let's see what this place is about. There's a minivan on fire as I'm leaving the airport. And I was just like, every single person from the Northeast who said the South was dumb and trashy and gross owes me an apology. And all of you still do. Like, I remember people making fun, oh, you're from Tennessee? And I'm like, where are you from? And they're like, I'm from Pennsylvania. I'm like, bro, stop. This is not the flex you think it is.
Yeah.
I hate it. They bullied me forever about it. Like, because everyone you meet in the military is kind of like right out of central casting, The Italian New York guy, the Boston guy, the California guy, the Texan guy. It's all like an Avengers with brain injury situation. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's a good time, though.
Yeah.
But when you went to the military and you said you had a good ASVAB score, and they're like, hey, kid, you got the chops.
Yeah. I mean,
And you chose intelligence?
well, they kind of made it sound like I was going to be Jason Bourne. Like, and I mean, like, they were like, you ever been on a stakeout? Like, they fucking lied flat out. They were like,
An Army recruiter?
You're going to be collecting intelligence. And I was like, wow, what's that? What does that mean? Right? I'm intelligent. I can do intelligent things. And it was probably the bonus, his commission for it, maybe.
Did you get a bonus?
I did. I got like $9,000.
Bro, $9,000?
Dude,
What'd you do with that?
Hookers and blow, basically. That's where it all went. No, I don't. I think I paid bills with it.
Yeah, it's PFC money. It just
It ran away,
evaporates.
bro.
You get the check and it just goes up in the air.
Actually, and I mentioned that I had an ASFAB in the 90s or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was high, right?
You had the world at your fingertips. Yeah.
I don't remember if it was 90 ply. It could have been 70 ply. I don't know. It was high, and they were surprised because I showed up in half a fucking car from the trailer park, and it did not.
Why were they surprised? It'd be like, jackpot, this kid's shipping.
Well,
He's going. Hey, I got another one.
He's got the chalk in his hand already on the board.
You walk in, they go, all right, buddy. You don't even give them your name. You just like give them your fingerprints. You just touch stuff.
I don't know how to sign my name. I'll just make your mark right here.
We have a system for your type.
No, I don't know why. I was young. I was still in high school when I forced her. So my birthday's in September. October 16th, I signed my paperwork.
Whoa.
17 years old.
What year is this? When did you graduate?
I graduated in 07. I signed my paperwork in October 15th or 16th of 2006.
You're literally like a year younger than me, aren't you?
I'll be 36 this year.
Yeah. I'm 37.
So I don't know why I chose intelligence. I think the way that they kind of described it is it was that you were going to be this kind of jack of all trades to help make decisions. And
it's not
that part I actually don't think they lied about, because what I became is an all-source intelligence analyst, and I am now able to speak at depth and length for everything from communications intelligence, signals intelligence, geospatial intelligence, really the gamut of sources, human intelligence. Humenters were a huge part of my second deployment, enabling them. I absolutely love working with humaners, some of the wildest fucking dudes ever. But so that part, I think, actually was more of an enabler than I joke about it being. People will look at like their company level intelligence analysts and the assets they had, and they'll be like, our intelligence sucked, and it's like, okay. Your analyst probably had shitty assets, right? They didn't have ISR they could soak the area with. They didn't have any placement or access to solid sources, or the sources were bullshit themselves, and it was the best they were working with. And it is at a certain level, based on confidence levels, kind of a guess.
Yeah,
right. It's an assessment. We assess with moderate, low, high confidence that the bad guy is in his bed down location.
Yeah.
A lot of times he's not, right? But that's probably because you didn't have an ISR asset to soak the area to confirm that he hasn't left yet.
Yeah.
So
I like that phrase, soak the area. Is that like a technical?
ISR soak is a technical term.
I understand exactly what you're saying though.
Yep. So they'll
like
just
that.
They'll loiter over top of it, and they will just stare at that building. And when I actually have never employed true intelligence analysis in an operational environment. My first deployment, I didn't do it. My second deployment, I did information operations. So there's an intelligence element to that, but I didn't do like true analysis. I did deception planning. I did. Most people would equate it to like PSYOP, but it's not. PSYOP is a capability.
Gotcha.
We're like the umbrella to that. Like PSYOP is one thing we can work with, and then we can work with kinetic effects. So nothing changes your decision-making process, like watching a mountainside blow up.
Yeah.
Moabs and stuff.
Yeah. Insert Robert Downey Jr. Iron Man. Yeah. Yeah.
So that changes the cognitive space, right?
Yeah.
And people will make decisions based off of that. So imagine, the commanders keeps receiving rockets to the airfield, and he's like, I want them to stop shooting rockets at this airfield. Well, we'll park a fucking HIMARS on the airfield and basically shoot it once at a general direction where they were shooting rockets from, and I bet you they're not going to shoot RPGs from that area ever again.
That'll do it.
Because the HIMARS is an absolute swinging dick of an artillery piece.
It's incredible.
You're hitting nose hairs with fucking rockets. It's amazing.
I love the way you tell a story. But so you're doing this stuff. Of your two deployments?
Yeah.
Is there stuff that sticks out? Because
the first deployment was kind of your run of the mill. Both of them were. So I deployed the first time not until 2013. So I came in 06. Whoa. Yeah. And I had been on the volunteer status, and I'd been with the same unit that entire time. My civilian career was progressing, and I'm going to catch heat for this, but it is what it is, and I think it's been an enabler. I've been a reservist since day one. I have about 4 or 5 total, I think-ish. I have to look at my retirement point statement. I'm sorry. I have about 4 or 5 years worth of active duty time. That's like ADOS deployments, stuff like that. But it's been reserved since day one. I'll get to the civilian side in a minute because that's where I did intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, NSA, Cybercom,
Startups.
DHS. Yeah, just these small companies.
Yeah, these venture capital firms. Yeah.
We can get to the small companies if you want to.
No, yeah. There's a road. I'm walking down it, brother.
So, that first deployment was I was really just in an ops NCO's position.
All right.
I drove a lot of it. We were so our unit, we were decom SPO, and we were handing logistics off in 2013 from us managing it back to the Afghans. So for a long time, we were managing their beans, bullets,
Band-Aids,
all that stuff. Well, by 2013, we had started handing that shit back to them, and Decom SPO maintained the plan to do that, and it all ran off as SharePoint, right?
Gotcha.
I'll never forget it because my position was basically the admin for the SharePoint when I wasn't driving. And yeah, that's all we were doing is we were running supplies. So I would drive to like run school supplies to a compound, just outside of Kabul. I would drive to HKIA to pick up joint Aussies or something that were coming in. That's memorable in a way because it was my first experience, right?
Yeah.
And driving in Kabul, we were in non-tactical vehicles. So we initially had trained to have MRAPs. And when we had MRAPs, I was supposed to be a gunner. So I had, as an intel guy, because I was deploying in a non-MOS specific role, non-job specific, I'd done my qualification and all that stuff. Well, we got there and they were like, we have land cruisers for you. And we were all like, what? What do you mean we have land cruisers? We're in Afghanistan, and we're a little bit naive about it. We're in Kabul. We were at Camp Eggers. Camp Eggers is not in a dangerous area, at least from a certain perspective. It's all got an element of danger to it.
Yeah.
Task Force Guam had just been hit with like a 2,000-pound VBID like the week we arrived, just outside of Camp Eggers. So there's an element of danger there, but it's not like, it's not like a cop out in Wardak province or, in Kandahar where it's like kinetic every day. So we're driving these land cruisers around, and when we get there, they're like, we have land cruisers, and they're all loaded down with this shitty armor with stock clutches and their stick shift.
Cool.
And way too many people don't know how to drive a stick.
Yes.
Way too many.
Yes.
So they were like, I need everybody to raise their hand if you had a stick. That half a car that I had, stick.
Nice.
So
that's how I learned to drive too.
In Afghanistan?
No, stick.
Oh, a stick.
I drove a bus in Afghanistan, actually, for the exact same reason.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just nobody. They tried.
It's the reverse pattern too, right? It's
no,
reverse.
the Land Cruisers were fun, were normal. I don't remember them being weird.
The bus in Afghanistan first was over here.
Oh, weird.
First, second, third, fourth, and then you found it as you got closer.
Yeah, that would have fucked me up pretty bad.
Yeah, I had to drive it for the 3 weeks we were in Kandahar airfield.
But I have pictures of these Land Cruisers, and it was an experience, man. I mean, there were no stoplights, obviously, right? I think there were a couple, but like they had been turned off. like we had paid for them to install stoplights, and then they basically were there drying people's clothes.
Yeah, they're like, we don't have to use this USAID money for that, do we?
It probably was USAID money.
Isn't that something?
That's weird.
Isn't that something? That's weird. It's not nothing. There's no such thing as coincidences, right? That's what I like to say.
So that first deployment was memorable just because, it's kind of your first deployment, it's your first experience.
It's your first, this is what this is.
The second one's what I hang my hat on, though.
Yeah?
That was a life-changing opportunity. I was with the 1st Information Operations Command. I wasn't yet. Where was I with? I was doing, basic stateside intelligence stuff with AFRICOM, on the Niger River Basin specifically, actually. And
whoa.
Yeah.
You were in the thick of it.
I wasn't in the Niger. No, we were nerds sitting in front of computers.
Well, no, but
Norfolk, Virginia.
You're literally AFCOM.
Yeah, AFRICOM. So we were the Army Reserve element for AFRICOM. And a buddy of mine that I had met there had moved to First IO, and he started telling me about what his team was doing. And he had a 4-man team, and they were supposed to have 5 total. He was like, you should come to me. I can't tell you what we're going to do. I can tell you that the customer that we're going to support, if you end up going on the deployment with us, is kind of a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity as a reserve guy and as an intel guy. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but you're literally the godfather of my kids. So whatever, you want me to come to you, I'll come to you. I transferred to First IO. I get attached to an information operations field support team in FST. FSTs deploy in 4-man teams, 1 major, 1 O3, an E7 billet, and a contractor billet. And we attach to SOF elements. So you had multiple task forces that you could attach to. I attached to what is effectively 75th Ranger Regiment.
Nice.
I was never supposed to, though. So I had to work to get on the deployment. At the time, I was, E5. I had a civilian career that was progressing. Most people kind of measure their success by their rank. When you end up with like 60 plus employees on the civilian side,
Yeah.
At 27, making an exorbitant amount of money, your rank in the military doesn't matter anymore. Like yes, it matters. It's like a personal achievement thing, but this would have been 2016. So
Yeah.
I was the 5th man.
Mm-hmm.
The 5th is typically just there to train, and the pipeline for this training is like 2 years long. I did coursework out in Coronado on the SEAL compound. That class was called Influence in Special Operations. I did coursework at Hurlburt Airfield, which is where they do, which is AFSOC, Air Force Special Operations Command, is down there. I did coursework for 2 years, learning how to do all of these new skills. Throughout the process, there was this soldier that was a part of the 4-man, and she was overweight. She continued to fail her PT test. Mm-hmm. She was a captain, mm-hmm. and continued to basically be able to elude regulation. I'll just put it that way. I'm not afraid to talk about stuff like this because I still wear the uniform, and it matters very much to me to hold people accountable. I'm not going to say her name. If she ever finds this, she's going to know exactly who she is. Well, the major ended up basically making the argument. He was like, I would rather cut that captain and take that E5 on this deployment.
Yeah.
Because A, she's not going to fit in that environment. B, she's not going to, from an aptitude perspective, make it. So I ended up somehow making my way onto this 4-man team in an O3 billet. And somehow ended up in Afghanistan with probably some of the most awesome dudes I could ever imagine. At that time, when I first got to First Information Operations Command, I was almost 265 pounds.
You were 265 pounds?
I was obese, my man. Obese. 2 words, because I was so fat you can't fit it in 1 word on my frame. And it was not like a good, stocky 265 pounds.
Brother, I don't know where you would have put it.
I don't know.
You must have been all rump. Lord have mercy. 260?
265 pounds.
That's 100 pounds more than you are now, roughly.
I'm 185-ish.
Yeah.
now.
That's insane.
I got as low as 155. Anyway, I wasn't a paragon of physical fitness, but after getting attached to First IO,
you were a rectangle.
it
Geometry joke.
getting exposed to that side of the military where the physical aspect, and this is the same way in the infantry, the physical aspect is an enabler for the mental. Yeah. Right? Where they are aligned. Mm-hmm. There are so many people in the intelligence field and specialty who are like me. I was great. I was top of like boot camp. When I came out of basic training, lean and not very mean. I was still kind of a punk ass, but I was lean. I did it right. I was in great shape, came out of AIT, top of my class. Then just got fat, to be frank.
Yeah.
And the mindset shift for me was life-changing. I ended up getting attached to Australian SASR.
Yeah.
I got attached to Black Squadron, supporting them on a couple things that they needed. One of the capabilities we have in information operations is, say, for instance, you want to use a fancy new gun to kill people, and you don't want people to know that you're using that gun even after you use it. So people will come to you as IO and say, hey, I'm going to use this fancy gun. I don't want people to know that I use this fancy gun. I need you to protect that capability. So that was specifically the context that I worked with them. For SASR, I ended up working with them to generate leads on a hostage situation that they were working on. There's a coin over there. Actually, it's the bottom left one of the rack. That one is from Aussie SASR. Whoa. So getting the exposure as the reserve intel guy from the trailer park that had absolutely no business being a part of that was life-changing for me. And it reshaped the way that I carry myself day to day. It would have been the same had I gotten attached to an MEU. So there are a lot of people that hold this soft individuals and mission to a higher, standard than like an MEU. They're just different.
It's different. It's when I say I don't, what I mean is that war is war and it's apples to oranges. Like,
yeah.
If I was on a team training every day with people that were honestly at my level of proficiency when I was at their level, like we were all like, have been doing it for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, y'all be gangsters too.
It'd be different. However, taking a bunch of 18-year-olds from all across the country and then training them to move as a unit and do an Australian peel back in combat, which I have done, that was incredible too, if not more incredible. We think about we'd only known each other for less than a year. Yeah. And you're doing that. So
the missions are
missions are also different, direct action versus, constant. Like in Marja, we weren't doing security patrols, we were doing combat patrols. We were literally pushing the enemy every single day. But in Garms, my first tour, we were doing security patrols. Completely different work, and it changes. And it's tough because, like, I've always said this, your average grunt, especially in the Marine Corps, doesn't get the respect they deserve.
No, they certainly don't. And there are a couple, like, Instagram pages and people that I like. There's guys like Goons Up.
Goons Up. He was actually in my unit.
Dude, I've been a huge fan forever because we used SOF as a direct action element so much. It absolutely beat the SOF community down.
Yeah.
But it also set this expectation that that's what you're supposed to use SOF for, right? So like you'll have all these people that think that, we should just send a bunch of ODAs to fight China. And it's like,
that's literally not what they're supposed to do.
No. The ODAs would probably insert into the outer regions of China and literally teach the locals how to fight back against their government.
Yes.
That's what you're going to use those ODAs for. The SEALs, you're going to have them boat their way into the harbors and shit and blow up all their stuff.
Yeah.
That's what the SEALs are going to do, right? So there's all, again, that goes into like people not.
You want to go to war, get a bunch of kids from Iowa that are corn fed and give them a belt fed.
Get that motherfucker named Kyle who grew up eating cornbread, throwing hay bales on the back of a flatbed truck. That dude's gonna huck a 240 Bravo with one hand, set a base of fire for a maneuver element, and absolutely trash whatever's in his beaten zone. There's a difference in them. So when I say that it was like kind of a life-changing, it was really just the attitude change. That same attitude that you have in Marines, that very active confidence, right? Sometimes it crosses into hubris, but you got to play with the line between confidence and hubris. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to push yourself into whatever it is that you've got to accomplish, right? So you have to get close to hubris.
I mean, that's the story of my book, Hubris, the Zach Bell story. Like, it's because you need it to be like, I think I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah, you
like that's,
you got this.
But that's what pushes you to like go, like every time I sprint, for instance, I'm like, I'm 37. And I'm like, everyone I know does this because it's you. And it's like all my other friends that do this stuff. Bartel, like everyone does hard things. But I have to go, but this isn't normal. Most people don't do this. I need to remember that and keep working on this, continuing to push myself because I have found too quickly I'll become soft and comfortable in modern society. I'm not saying like do crazy stuff, like get out there and do like a fake boot camp or whatever. That I don't need that. I don't need a rite of passage. I've done enough. But we very quickly can be like, yeah, I'm just gonna sit down.
Yeah.
And we don't need that.
Yep. I'll take a load off today, and then the next day you make the same decision to take a load off, and then the day after that you're like, I can do one more day. I'm gonna take a load off, and then life gets in the way. You got to go to the store. You got to do this and that and the other, and then you get into this habit of, what is effectively complacency. Yeah. Right.
And it's quick. It's not.
Yeah.
It's the frog and water thing, right? It's not. Ow! It's hot. I gotta get out of here. It's like. No. It's a little warm.
It's fine though. I can deal with it. Eventually you're boiling and you're, 50 pounds overweight, 10 years past your prime. When had you focused on it, had you kind of maintained a little bit of that cutting edge on that knife, it's first of all, it's not too late for anybody that's kind of listening to this right now.
It is not too late.
If I can be, an absolute jelly donut and not be now, anybody can do it, because I don't know, nobody's more of a critic of themselves than I am. I am soft. We'll put it that way. So if I can do it, anybody can do it. But
that's what you found. You found the secret. The secret is anybody can do it.
Yeah.
And that's really it. It's not, because even I hate to bash on this stuff, but like, I don't like Ozempic and stuff like that.
No.
And this is just why I don't like it, because it doesn't teach you to change your mindset.
Well, there's no foundation to Ozempic.
But like, it's just like, it's like they let air out of a balloon and they're like, you're good. But like, here's the thing. My brain loves a good steak. I love a good Wagyu steak. Mm-hmm. I love it. It's delicious. Medium rare, put it down in front of me. Give me a tomahawk. Let's do it. But my heart wants a fried bologna sandwich.
Fuck yeah.
With mayonnaise on it. Oh, God damn.
American cheese on that bad boy.
Yeah, give me some of that government cheese.
Cheese.
Cut it off the block and let me have it.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's what I want. And it feels good with that Wonder Bread. And there's not a drop of grains in it, enriched flour. You know what that means? They poured bleach on a bunch of it. But that's the thing. Those things don't go away when you zap all that. You have to have a mindset change. You can do those things. Yeah, you can do those things in moderation, but like, you have to invest in yourself. And like, the thing I'm obsessed with lately is like, we're about to have the largest aged population ever. That's about to happen as the boomers like shift into, they're all going to live longer than ever, blah, blah, blah. I want to be as lethal and as dangerous as long as I can.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think honestly, like when we're in like our 60s, 70s and 80s, like we're still going to be like running, competing and everything. Cause I just see, people playing pickleball now. And they didn't know anything about fitness. They thought fitness was fitting another cigarette in their mouth. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So imagine what we'll be doing. Like, we'll be like
I intend to be an absolute fucking unit. So when I say
put me in the dirt.
Yes. When I say I'm soft, I literally tell myself every day that, you're not done. You are still a jelly donut.
Yeah.
And you need to get up because you're not. There's this photo. It's kind of an Instagram meme, but it's literally how I treat my day to day, right? There's this photo of this, just, you can tell this guy, he's, probably former military, and he's carrying this wife and their daughter. And then in front of them is the dad. And he's like, definitely not in shape.
Yeah.
But will never be me.
Never.
I will throw every single one of my family members over my shoulder. And if I can't do that, right, then I'm not going to say I've failed, but if I can at least every day tell myself, don't be that, right, I can at least inch my way forward in a way that I'm never taking too hard of a step back, right? So if I'm inching forward and I do decide to have a piece of cake, it was just my daughter's birthday. I had some cake, man. Yeah. I like to have a drink.
Yeah.
Or I like to, take a week to reset my body, right?
Yeah.
But I can do that because I have steadily each day made a conscious and deliberate decision to not be a piece of shit. Will I always be successful? No. I still think I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But if every day I try not to be, that incremental improvement,
Look at where it's got you.
Well, there's a. What
I mean,
killed-
like you're ripped. You basically lost a Backstreet Boy in body weight, and like now you look like you belong in a boy band.
what would our boy band be called?
Rudy's riled up.
Rudy.
Rudy's riled up.
Imagine having to do a TV show next to Rudy Reyes.
Yeah.
Like
Everything you thought you knew as a man, you're like, I don't know.
I
I
was like, well, maybe
guess I'm not straight.
maybe I am. Maybe gay is yeah. You know?
I mean, like I told you, I haven't said this. Like we saw a movie called Brothers After Wars, an incredible documentary for Gary Sinise. He's there with and stuff, and he's been all handsome and shit, and like he's kind, and I can't help but look at him and think that like he did Generation Kill. He's right there next to me, and he knows my name, and he's like, brother, and when he says he's excited to see you, he really is,
dude.
But I was so fucking mad at him when I saw him stand up and eat 2 hot dogs from a movie theater covered in cheese and still have like a 12-pack. And I'm like, you can't have all of God's gifts.
It's not allowed.
Okay, you come on. No. And he's like, what? I'm hungry. And he just ate him down. And I was like, if I eat that, my butt cheeks will shake for a week.
I look at a milkshake sideways and get jiggly.
It's over. But you're eating two movie theater hot dogs?
Yeah.
Come on.
They're not even good hot dogs.
They're not even good. Yeah. And he's like, what? I'm hungry. He's in a vest being jacked and awesome. That's the only time I've ever been mad at Rudy.
You know, Rudy is, there are certain people that I have had the pleasure of being introduced to in the veteran creator space, yourself being one of them. And then there are certain people that I could have gone the rest of my life and not been introduced with them, not know about their drama, not know that.
No,
Probably not a good idea.
No, yeah. Oh, save that for the after show. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Rudy's one of those guys.
Rudy is one of the most genuine people with a genuine story to tell that people just say, oh, you mean from Generation Kill? No, not just from Generation Kill. He's his own producer. He runs his own company. He has, at one point in time, he had like 3 TV shows on at once. He had SAS, Who Dares Wins. He had Special Forces, The Ultimate Test. He had our show running. And meanwhile, he's still taking time out of his day to give me the ropes because he was in my seat at one point in time. He was
running a nonprofit. Doesn't he run the Blue?
Yes. So it's Blue Force.
Yeah, like
Force Blue. Excuse me. I went to their just last year. They do a big event up in New York to thank all of their donors. And their program is amazing as well. You know, taking veterans and not only teaching them to dive and conserve the oceans, but also actually employing them to do that.
Yeah.
At the end of it, that's amazing.
It's awesome.
Most of the time you'll find a nonprofit that'll do like, all right, we'll put you in a course or we'll find you a job. You don't find them that not only will teach you and certify you to do it, but then they will employ you in that.
It's incredible.
So Rudy is honestly, and I owe a lot of what I do day to day, even now, to him.
And he's like, I don't want to say how old he is. I don't think he would care. But
he's in his mid-50s.
He's in his mid-50s, and he looks like a god.
Yeah. If I looked like Rudy Reyes, who's in his mid-50s right now, today, I would.
That's a win.
I would. Yeah.
That's a win.
I would own the world at that point.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm taking that thing for a spin. You know, he might be for good. I'd be for evil.
I'm gonna do way worse things.
Yeah. They're like, come on, buddy, we're going to Vegas. No, but like, this is the last thing. I don't want to say it's the last thing to say about it. I just want this to be said. I've met so many people who've broken my heart too. And when I met him at first,
this makes me want to text him.
I'm gonna text him actually. When I met him at first, I was scared shitless that he was gonna break my heart and just be shallow and vapid,
be a shitty person
and empty. And I was, because you always say don't meet your heroes because, like, obviously you put him in a place, but, like, he's really, like, one of the first people to do this stuff as a veteran who carries the Marine Corps on his back. Like, his first deployment, they basically created counterinsurgency fighting techniques. They didn't know what they were doing. They were, like, the last group of special forces to actually do the special forces mission like you were talking about. They were literally, like, doing recon and trying to do those things as opposed to, like, that shift and they're like, send men direct action ever. Like they were doing the trade craft there while like, what are IEDs? What are this? What are that? Like it's all being developed in real time.
Well, I mean, that would have been like, that's like Republican Guard days too.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean,
That's,
like no one
the
knew.
Republican Guard was like the 5th largest military in the world at the time. And
Yeah.
like that was like a deal. You know what I mean? So being a part of the
was a problem.
the whole left hook thing, there's
Yeah.
a big deception plan around the left hook for anybody that is into that. But Rudy, man, I seriously, like I could talk about Rudy like he's my dad. I want Rudy to be my dad. You know, like I said.
I don't, because it would bother me when he came over shirtless for Christmas. And then I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe you find out who you are later in life. Like I'm just
But his whole incremental, it had always bothered me that there are so many people that I won't even just apply it to veteran creators. So we've been talking about veteran creators. I just mean creators, right? That they themselves are like, you got to do better for yourself, but they themselves we're finding out they're pieces of shit, right? They're expressing these family values, and then not themselves emulating or not themselves being anywhere close to those. All I have ever cared is that when, if I tweet something and say, hey, go to the gym, it's because I'm in the fucking gym.
Oh yeah.
Right? It's because I had to, at one point, force myself to make that decision.
Oh, yeah.
To get up, get my fat ass off the couch and go to the gym. I owe that and attribute that to a few really important people and experiences. One of those experiences being, again, that second deployment that I had no business being on, but I was extremely successful. And my end of deployment award is probably more than I deserve, but having, that organization push that to you was something else, right?
You saw what could happen, like what you could be capable of.
Yes.
It's the expression that I often think about, like when I always say, like all of us, like veteran creators, especially need to like tie ourselves to each other, because a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep.
Like it's always said as like a positive thing, but I don't think anybody thinks about like if it doesn't lift your boat, it's going to drown you. So like you've got to rise to the level of everyone else around you. Like it forces you to be great. It forces you to be like, I don't want to work out, but if Ronnie beats me, it's going to bother me for like 6 months.
I can see that. I can see that while we were working out today.
I've got tons of that. I've got tons of that. But even if it doesn't even matter, the fight I'm having with you is nothing that's going on with me,
for sure.
brother. Like every day, I'll get into the slumps when I'm too distracted by work and I don't want to work out. So now I've got a trick, right? This is my trick. You want to hear anyone at home, you don't want to work out. Here's what you do. You go to Echelon, you go drinkechelon.com. This is really what you do. You buy some Echelon, all right? It's a pre-workout. They got a ton of flavors. You sit in your truck, your car, whatever you have. You go to the gym. You drive to the gym. You get in the parking lot.
And
You crack that thing open, you slam it in the parking lot, and then you wait.
you're going to go to the gym.
You're going to go to the gym. That's my secret. It's not even a plug for Echelon.
I actually did that. I just do that to this day. I'll make my pre-workout and then I'll kind of get enveloped with work or something. And I'm like, no. And I'll slam my pre-workout and then I'm just sitting there.
Yeah. Because honestly, when I'm in my car, it's time when like everything's kind of pulled in. So I'll make a call or I'll sit there. But like I literally put my truck in reverse and I park it in the same spot every day. And I go, ugh. Half of me doesn't want to do it just because when I get back out, when I leave that place, when I leave that sanctuary of fitness, I come back outside, there's like 20 to 25 things I have to do. So that's when it's just a break. But now I'm like, I'm tired, crack.
Oh, yeah.
And I go, all right, time to go in there. And then my venom comes out. Eddie, let's go lift, Eddie. And then I'm ready. Pick up all the weights, Eddie. And then I'm just like ready to go. But that's because you have to do those things because, it's an old expression like when motivation fails, discipline won't.
Sure.
It's always there.
But see, that's
The discipline is driving there, getting there, doing that.
Environments that the right, we did the Funker530 show together a little bit ago, right?
Incredible show.
And you talked about the difference between moving from third platoon to second platoon, right? And what that did for you, right? So you mentioned it in passing, but that's I mentioned awards, right?
Yeah.
That was the perfect scenario because too many people are forgotten about all of the work that they do because of their rank. They get their award pushed down. It happened to work in my favor, and I happened to get to work my way into an environment that enabled me.
Yeah.
Right. That showed me what I could do. I grew up in be all you can be Army. Right.
Yeah.
Like that was what sold me on the Army. And I actually, it still resonates with me today.
I mean, look at you, dude. Look, like, no trailer here.
Yeah.
Look at what's changed.
This room was like the size of my mom's living room. But I mean, I worked for all of that too. Nobody
you've earned
gave
it.
me
Yeah.
any of it.
But it feels great.
Yeah.
But it's also the thing that makes you have 7 jobs that we listed out earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's because I have 6. So that's why I'm getting on to you about it. Because I know, but it's trauma's jet fuel. It'll take you so many places you never thought possible.
Oh, for sure.
The problem, it burns bright, it burns hot, it burns fast. It
Yeah.
comes at a cost.
I've reached burnout a couple times
Same.
just over the last 2 years or so. At one point, I had considered stopping the Funker530 live show. Well, the Funker530 live show is in the top 1% of live shows on YouTube, right?
on the little website known as YouTube.
Have you heard of it?
Top 1% of is it spelled with a U or a Y?
I'm playing with statistics there because I mean you got to think about how many live shows are on YouTube, right? It's still a top 1%, but then like
Brother, there's a ton.
percent number 2 all the way down is like the gap is massive. So I'm at the bottom of that one. Anyway, I at one point considered shutting that down because I was spinning too many fucking plates, man.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do so many things to share these experiences and my opinions on things because it was super. I'm going to give you a story. I live in a very rural area.
I love it.
It's free as fuck out here. We
It
shot
is.
guns in my backyard.
It was. I mean, it was awesome.
Yeah, I absolutely love living where I do. There's a brewery about 2.5, 3 miles from here, and my mom, myself, my 2 daughters. This is before the baby. We're hanging out at the brewery, listening to live music, and my mom is there. Right. This is after my dad's death. Noticed that I no longer call him my stepdad. He's my dad again. There was that shift.
Yeah.
Right. Which really
Poppy.
shows how people change and how, forgiveness comes into play. Because when I saw how he was with my kids, I would have never personally forgiven him. But when I saw him with my kids, that changed the world for me. Anyway.
That's the beautiful thing about life, though, man.
So we're sitting at this brewery, and this guy gets up, and I see him get up because he gets up quick. And I'm looking at the table. I'm like, okay, what do I got? I got a glass. I got a basket for fries. That's not gonna hurt him. I'm gonna have to use this glass. You know where my brain's at. Like he gets up and he's looking at me, and he starts walking to me, and I'm like, I'm not sure what I did to this dude, but he is making his way to me.
You're like moving the kids behind. You're like,
well, to a certain extent, you're just like, what the hell? And you scoop back a little bit, kind of put your hands down, and you're like, okay, well. Well, he gets up and he's like, can I buy you a beer? And I was like, yeah. I don't know who you are, but yeah, that sounds awesome. Like, I don't know why you're offering to buy me a beer, but it sounds dope. He's like, well, you do the combat footage thing on Funker, right? I've been watching, and it's been keeping me in tune with the things that are the video of what's happening in the world. And I was like, holy shit, this is my hometown, right? I'm 3 miles, and some people would consider this creepy, and to a certain extent it is, but it's humbling because there are people that legitimately do watch the stuff that we produce and they care about it because it provides value. I'm not saying it's the greatest thing in the world, and I actually nobody would be more critical about what I put together than me. Like nobody can. So if you're out there and you're like, it sucks, I'm like, trust me, I think it sucks way worse.
oh, I know. I hate the sound of my voice too. Like my wife will play something, I'll just be like, stop, please stop. Why do I sound like that when I say tease?
But I had burnt out to a point, and we had stood up the Funker530 podcast in this new studio, and I was like, guys, I got to spin down the live show. I can't manage all this. But I had people start to reach out to me, and they're like, hey, they didn't see the announcement where I said, I'm not going to do it anymore. We're going to focus on the podcast. But a week goes by and there's no show. And I get a couple DMs. I get a couple comments like, what's happening?
Where are you?
I get another week goes by and it's like, hold the fuck on a minute.
Yeah.
Are you dead or not?
Yeah.
You know, and algorithms being algorithms, they didn't see the announcement. They didn't see me saying, hey, I've just got so much on my plate. We've got, you know, this going on and that going on.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I was like, we started that at a time where it was so critical for people to be able to see raw footage with really just me saying, this is the geographical location this video takes place. This is one belligerent. This is the other belligerent. Here's the video. That's all the show is. I mean, nobody is unbiased, and I've talked about that before. But it's not me saying, this is why this person is right. There is always an objective truth in war. There always is, and there are not always two sides to the coin. The coin is unequal in a lot of situations where, yes, there is some truth that you think there makes there two sides to the same coin, but it's an unequal sized coin, right? So that objective truth, that always exists. But the delivery of the show in an objective nature, if one belligerent is getting ambushed, I'm showing you what an L-shaped ambush looks like. I'm showing you where that takes place on from a top-down perspective on the map that says, here's the forward line of troops. The forward line of troops has shifted over the last week to this location versus that location. I devalued it myself and set it aside. This is part of that. I am always trying to continuously improve. There were so many people that were like, no, like I rely on that. I have to work, bro. Like I can't.
Why do you think you devalued that?
My own. I mean, it's really just me in here doing it, right?
It's hard to know.
So
like where it goes.
If that was the only thing that I did, I could make it something even more valuable, right? I have the confidence in me to do that, but I also know that it's not perfect, right? And right now, because of all of these other things that I've got going on at one time, the not perfect aspect overweighed the other, right? So,
well, that's the secret of being a creator is like, when somebody comes up to you, they're like, that was a great thing. And you're like, oh, thank you. But when they leave, you're like, yeah, but I cut out 20 minutes.
Yeah, but
I hate it.
Yeah, I could have done this. Or,
and that's the thing, though. But like, you do so many things, and you're such like, what I love about what you do is that you go out of your way, and I'm just going to say this, possibly to your own detriment, don't put political spins on stuff because a lot of dollars would show up. And I hate that I said it like that. But they would if you leaned a little more red or a little more blue, and that's a fact. You just go, this is what this is.
I will never be able to have the fervent type of following that somebody that will subscribe to a single narrative will. Because what that does is provides confirmation bias. And all that's going to do is increase people's association with a person.
Yeah.
I have a pinned tweet, and it's been up there for like 2.5, 3 years. It says, when all of your beliefs fit neatly into one political party, they're no longer your beliefs.
Ooh.
The reason I leave that pinned is if at any point, and this is not me saying that you can't be a Republican or you can't be a Democrat. This is me saying that
those are dumb. Is that what you're saying?
No. Well, the Republican Party today is not what there's this like new age Republican Party, and then there's like they're not real Republicans. They're this kind of Republican.
It's so funny. We have two options, but everyone's like, no, we're the new.
No,
they're
we're
the
real
old.
ones.
They're the new. They're the old. And I'm like, I hate all of you.
It's like, okay, now there's like 5 sub options. Can you?
Yeah.
This is like, is there an X in it in that one at this point as well? Or
I want to abolish political parties personally and just go old fashioned and like, let's just go with ideas.
Well, the way it used to work is, you would have the two, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you would have the two running against each other, and the winner would take the presidency and the loser would take the vice presidency. Right.
That seems kind of cool. and balance.
I
That
could
seems
see
fair and
arguments.
balanced.
I could see arguments supporting and against that, right? So the supporting argument would be, hey, well, then you would have a representative of each. The vice president sits over top of Congress, so the checks and balances are there to even more of an extent. The opposite argument is, well, nothing would ever change because they would counterbalance each other too
Brother,
much.
nothing's changing that much right now. Like
That's kind of where I was going. It's
we
like,
go
well,
like
that kind of
this.
feels that way. As
We
it
go
is.
really right, and then we go really left. We go really, and it's just like this seesaw of. Again, I think if none of it existed and we just went like, who's got the best ideas? I think that might be a better project instead of like, let's make a third party. I don't want another party. I don't want another tie color. I just want ideas.
My whole point behind, again, in the specific words matter very much to me, right? Like very, very specific words.
Yeah.
When all of your beliefs fit neatly into one political party, they're no longer your beliefs.
Yeah.
People think, well, no, I'm a conservative, so all of my beliefs are conservative. And I will look at them and I will say, do you think that the Republican Party in its current iteration is representative in its wholly and in its entirety of every conservative value that you have? And if you say yes, then they're no longer your beliefs. It's what the Republican Party is selling you right now, right? Because it's not possible. The platforms that our Republicans are running on or our Democrats are running on are going to be modern day current hot topic issues. Economy is always going to be one. Life is going to be one.
Yeah. Guns
probably shouldn't be one. That I don't think that should be a political thing. There's actually a pretty wide movement of Democrats right now that are realizing, hey, the Second Amendment might be pretty dope. And we're like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Go fucking buy a gun or something.
Yeah, wake up.
Not to get political on this show, but the wars in Ukraine and Israel are the best representation of the need for the Second Amendment I've ever seen in my fucking life.
That's a fact.
There were Ukrainians lined up for blocks waiting for one rifle and one magazine, right? Hamas made their way into homes and kibbutz
Yeah.
in southern Israel.
Yeah.
Were those homes and kibbutz each armed to the extent that they felt themselves, those that had a responder of, again, a good guy with a gun, doesn't matter what kind of good guy with a gun, but a good guy with a gun, they are going to fend that off and more people are going to survive because of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying when
make yourself a hard target.
The last time I said that, people were like, that wouldn't have stopped Russia's invasion. No, but when Russia had made their way into Kyiv, maybe more people would have been shooting out of the fucking apartment buildings because they would have had arms.
You can't give up your right to protect yourself under that idea. Be like, well, that wouldn't have stopped them. Maybe it would have saved someone. Like maybe it would have saved, like, hard target. Make yourself a hard target. Like do things to protect yourself. Like a long time ago, my grandmother looked at me and she said, the government's not coming to save you.
Nobody is.
And I've never forgot that.
Nobody's coming.
And that was someone who grew up in the Depression. Like to the day she died, she jarred and pickled and preserved everything. Never left a restaurant with when they weren't looking, grandmother was taking the bread and the butter. She was like, it's ours. And she'd ask for extra stuff to go, if it wasn't nailed down, it was hers.
Well, that's the fundamental difference. That's what individual freedom looks like.
But she knew they weren't coming. There's no one coming to save you. So we have to prepare. Like we have to do whatever we can.
And again, that is what individual freedom looks like. Yes, it is the freedom to, quote, do what you want. A nation is nothing without its laws. Having laws in a nation, literally that's what makes a nation a nation, right? Mm-hmm. But that individual freedom means that to a certain extent and perspective, nobody else are responsible for you. It's the same argument that I give when somebody says we need to ban whatever kind of gun. It's like what somebody does with their gun 2,000 miles from me is not my fucking problem.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't care.
Well, it's a slippery slope too. Where does it stop?
Yeah, but so you're going to take mine because of what they're going to do. What is this fucking Minority Report? Like, how do you know that I'm going to do something with it? That's when we get into red flag. What if they take your car because your truck's been shown to equal X amount of fatalities and crashes? So now you can't have your truck, but you paid for it. They're going to give you another truck? No, we're just taking yours. Well, that doesn't seem right. Yeah.
Well,
it's not my problem what you fear somebody else is going to do with a firearm. Mm-hmm. That's not my problem, right? Because you making that change impacts me, and now I've got a problem. Right? So again, going back to the whole like,
But you talk about that. Do you feel like we're in a moment in society where there's this change happening? Where I have noticed post-COVID, there's been radical accountability and radical realization. People have woken up to stuff. Like, I remember there's parks I always went to, and I've always gone to run trails, and people were never there, ever.
Sure.
Ever. Post-COVID, there was a ton of people there. Now it's scaled back significantly. But post-COVID, there's a ton of people there because they were like, oh, well, there's something like they seem to have like woken up to the fact that we probably shouldn't be indoors all the time. We need to start doing things for health and things like that. But even now to the point of like, well, they just shut the world down. What do you do? And I have hope, but then I also fear that like, I don't know, like people don't really understand like how bad it could be. Is that like,
Sure.
I think of North Carolina where you went and saw stuff firsthand. I mean, every day, still to this day, I hear about, you know, people who are still cut off from the rest of the world. And if not for a bunch of good old boys and four-wheelers, they're never getting roads back to their towns. Because the government's not, there's no one coming.
There was so much to take in North Carolina. I sat embedded with both the National Guard and I embedded with Savage Freedoms, one of the largest volunteer organizations that was down there. And something that took me aback, because I went down there truly expecting to see literally just good old boys, because that's what I was seeing all across Twitter, was just that. What I found when I got to Savage Freedoms, his entire HLZ was being run by Air Force guardsmen. They were integrated by that time. And this would have only been 3 or 4, actually maybe about a week after. So by that time, which it's a week, that's a long time. But I met with some of those guardsmen, and I think one of the problems that ended up making its way viral, you know, there were certain circumstances that one of the issues that I have with a lot of social media right now is context and nuance is ignored on things.
That's how you clickbait rage people, though.
It is, but it's also how you tear down a society, because perception is reality, right?
Yeah.
And the perception at the time was that there was no military support for them whatsoever. Well, I spoke with, and I mean, with the lowest on the food chain, with this engineer company that literally cut their way in through the storm on day one. They didn't have their cell phones recording, and there was no cell service out there. They all had videos of them doing it, right? But by that time, it was getting pushed out into the environment too late. So the perception was, you know, where's the National Guard? They were there. They started at the population centers, and they had to work their way out. Was it enough? Probably not. How could anybody have known that Helene was going to sit over top of Appalachia like that and dump water that would just destroy draws that had houses just speckled throughout them? I went up through there, and you know, I saw these communities that they absolutely did cut themselves out, and they're right. They didn't see the National Guard until by the time I got down there. Well, the National Guard was there, though. They were in Asheville, but the problems were devastating in Asheville that they got applied to. And no, it was not enough. They had staged out further to the east and had to cut their way into there. But what we were seeing on social media, and this is a problem that exists, especially in the combat footage realm, like with drones. What we see with drones, it's like, well, drones are taking over the battlefield. Well, 80% of the casualties being incurred in Ukraine are still happening because of artillery. But you don't see that. Because there's no camera on artillery. So we suddenly believe that, well, drones have just taken over everything.
Well, drones are so much more terrifying.
Well, they are more terrifying. But
you hear it.
Sure.
Yeah.
With artillery, you just kind of blow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I've been close to artillery rounds. I've heard the whistle.
Yeah.
And the legend is if you don't hear the whistle, it's blowing you up. I've never heard anybody confirm that, but
sure.
It just happens.
But that's kind of the perception that I'm speaking to. As I use that drone example, because everybody will look at drones and they'll be like, oh, drones are what's taking over. We don't even need tanks anymore. We don't need artillery because we'll just use drones. No, those traditional casualty producers, tanks are still fighting tanks. I've got the footage. I can show you the footage. Artillery is still causing casualties, a lot of them. They're made effective by drones because you can now push a drone out and you have more effective artillery fires.
Yeah.
But it's still the artillery that's producing the majority of those casualties. And the same thing with North Carolina. There were absolutely people that are still not getting enough help that they need, right? And there were people at that time that weren't getting enough help that they need. But for people to say that there wasn't help trying to, and that was there and working towards it. I was there. I saw them. I spoke with them.
Yeah.
And I looked at the video with timestamps of them literally cutting their way into those locations on day one with an excavator. These are like privates, right? These are specialists in National Guard companies. The capabilities that everybody saw were like these civilians with these M-Razors and this ability, almost soft level ability, because they're former soft guys. That's who was broadcasting it. Is they were like, hey, I'm Jim from Soft Elite Thunder Cunt, whatever.
Yeah. I have a subscription with them. Yeah.
And nothing against those guys.
No, I know what you're saying. Like, yeah.
But they have capabilities.
Yeah.
So they're mobile. You know, a Humvee isn't getting up into them draws, man.
No, it's not.
Especially not piloted by Private Jones.
Yeah.
Right? They're a sledgehammer. So they were there to get into Asheville, right? And then you had all of these amazing people, volunteers, that were just showing up with like barely anything on their back. They were like, I got a chainsaw and a backpack. How can I help?
Yeah.
Heroes. All of them. Heroes. But don't tell me that the guardsmen weren't doing their job either. They were doing mass clearance of roads. I worked with their cadaver dogs to find the bodies. They were out there. Again, there's footage. So it's one of those perception things that it caught fire, and it's because of rightful emotion. Our government needed to do more. There is still an aspect of what was done that needs to be acknowledged more, right? Because I'm not going to take PFC Jones's efforts on that Saturday away from him.
Yeah.
I'm not. And his name is not PFC Jones. I'm not burning anybody's name. It's technically public service, so I'm sure you can look it up. But
yeah. What I think you're saying here is that multiple things can be true at once.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what I feel like when I think about your work at Funker530. I mean, it's a very well-known website. For the longest time, you know, I can think about it like it was a bastion of truth. Like, you know, Live Leak walked so Funker530 could run.
Well, we actually hate the comparison with Live Leak.
I understand that.
No, it's common. It's actually really common.
I know, but like I'm an idiot. But like what I'm saying is like that was like raw, unformatted, on whatever. Like it was bad, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's basically porn.
It's
war porn.
It's the far edge of reality.
Yeah. But you come in and you're doing all this stuff, and again, thank you so much for taking the time to come here. You know, this has been like so incredible, but this is a question I've been dying to ask you, and I want to know.
Okay.
What you do is you look into hell.
Yeah. Some people's hell.
Some people's hell. But I look at it like a fire.
Sure.
If there was a fire right here in the center of the table, we'd both feel the heat from it. But if it's over there, not as bad. We still can feel the heat from it.
I know where you're going.
The longer you stand next to a fire, no matter how close you are, eventually you start to sweat. How do you deal with that? Because you're literally like plunged into like a place of seeing the realities of man at its worst.
Yeah.
Day in and day out. But how are you able to reconcile that in a way that still keeps you connected to your lovely family?
Yeah.
And helps you to not have a moment where like something goes wrong and you're like, do you know what's happening in like Israel? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like when people are like, oh my God, Dad, this sucks. I'm like, you know what sucks? You know, like, cause You can't take that on, but like, how do you put those things in place, right?
Sure.
Like, how do you not let that affect everything else? I guess is what the best way I think to say it.
It's hard because one of the things that I talk about a lot on the live show is people keep telling me that they understand the realities of war. They're like, I know, war's bad, I get it. But then when something like a POW execution happens, I don't think that there has ever been a war in history where that didn't happen. So yes, absolutely terrible. We don't want that to happen, but it's going to. It is civilian casualties. Never a good thing. I don't know if we can point to a single war in history where civilians were not casualties of that war. No, it's not a good thing, but it will happen. One of the challenges that we at Funker530 run into every single day is not normalizing war whilst still shedding light on its realities. And the way that we are able to be different is ultimately in our staff. So each one of our staff we are a 100% veteran team. Every single one of us focuses very specifically on certain types of footage. I don't know if people have picked this up or not, but when it comes to things like medical footage, Will is an advanced EMT. He's also a mortarman, a Purple Heart recipient. When it comes to ambushes, machine gun footage, patrolling footage, Josh Brooks, published author. He's also an 0331. And he can speak to machine gun theory in ways that, I wouldn't trust anybody else to tell me about machine gun theory. When it comes to law enforcement footage, we have a literal fucking space cop, right? So, but he's also Air Force. When it comes to strategy, when it comes to like big picture questions, we have a 2004 Marine Fallujah veteran, and everybody will recognize two of his Marines. One of them is dropping a hand grenade down a stairwell. The other one is clearing a stairwell with a PPSH. Those are his Marines. He was their executive officer. So when it comes to mechanized warfare, they were mech guys. What we bring to it is more of a historical perspective, because in 30 years, yes, what we're seeing today, it's war, it's nasty. But in 30 years, when somebody wants to know, you know what, back in 2024, they were doing the trench thing still. What did that look like? Funker530.com. And they're going to see what trenches with the intersection of these antiquated defensive posture techniques like trenches, where those intersect with modern precision weapons. And it's one of the most fascinating things to think about, because what did we design trenches for in the first place? Technically, that's all the way back to like Napoleonic warfare, to be honest with you. I mean, they had trenches in the Civil War, right? So we designed them to be this safe bastion. But what we have now is we have things like small diameter bombs. We have HIMARS that can literally hit inside of a trench. It can hit your one dugout. It's got a circular error probable of something like 5 meters, which is, for those listening, the CEP of artillery is ultimately how accurate it is. So if the CEP is 5 meters, at least 50% of 100 that you fire of that round are going to land within 5 meters. HIMARS, wildly accurate. I mentioned earlier, it is a swinging dick. It was kind of, I've chatted with a couple active duty artillery guys. I'm like, why don't we hear more about HIMARS until Ukraine? And he was like, to be honest with you, they kind of made fun of us because it's this big dorky truck.
Yeah.
It's not traditional artillery like load and fire. And it's, sexy like 777s. But ATACMS is an absolute nightmare. Dual purpose improved conventional munition cluster being fired by something with that level of accuracy and raining hellfire down on people. Alternative warhead Gimlers, GMLRS. Alternative warhead means that it has 182,000 tungsten steel balls that when it explodes over top, it turns into literally the world's nastiest, largest shotgun. And it obliterates things underneath of it. Anyway, I got carried away on different capabilities and stuff. But that's what we're providing people, is we're providing more than just, hey, that guy died. It's like, okay, but he was killed because of a small diameter bomb use, right? He was killed because of Iranian proliferation of Katyusha rockets. Forgive me on Katyusha. I'm pretty sure those are Iranian, but he was killed because of this type of ambush. We are not Live Leak. We are the historical archive of use of force. Now, when I say that, I didn't say combat footage. Once upon a time, it was just combat footage. And people talk about, like, there was this shift in Funker, and it's like, well, we went from hosting GWAT footage to being a historical archive. We now have landing pages for different conflicts. You'll find Vietnam footage. You'll find Korea footage. You'll find, if we could get it, I'd give you Genghis Khan footage.
Yeah.
So that you could see how absolutely horrific war has always been.
Yeah.
Right. And
show me how he conquered the steppe. Yeah.
The lenses that we have into it now have never been more clear for people. And I think there is a movement now that's like, well, hold on a second. Maybe war is actually bad. Maybe like for real. Because I've been watching this combat footage thing, and the veterans of the world, we've been like, yeah, motherfuckers, we've been saying that. So maybe stop sending our sons and daughters for no good reason. I'm not even an anti-war guy. Some people need killing. That's going to be the case forever.
Yeah.
But we need to make that decision properly, understanding the consequences of that.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what Funker530 is here to provide. Here's the best example I can give you. Fall of Kabul. Some of the best writing our Funker530 team has ever done, holding the United States, our own country, accountable for that absolute disaster that took place. One of the narratives that the mainstream media was pushing was that Afghans needed to surrender to the Taliban. It's like, it's going to be fine. Just surrender to them. It's going to be fine. Footage got dropped of the Taliban executing a team of Katehas. I worked with the Katehas on that second deployment. Afghan commandos. This is the cream of the crop of the Afghan National Army. They fought to their last bullet, and they finally came out, and they were like, okay, all right, fine. You want us to surrender? We're surrendering now. They started taking their plate carriers off.
Yeah.
Well, with American-made weapons, the Taliban mowed them all down. And this is all on video. We sat for a half a day on that footage. Nobody was publishing it. Nobody was talking about it. And we finally realized, we were like, no. The mainstream media is telling these people to surrender to these absolute terrorists. And we're not going to let that stand, because when they're surrendering, they're getting executed. They're getting killed in the streets, and these are our allies. These are people that we worked with, that we enabled, that we told we weren't going to leave, right? And then we pulled out a rug from underneath of them. And then they own a portion of this too. Their leadership fucking collapsed, dude. Yeah. I mean, infighting, people were fleeing to other countries. Some guys went to France. Some dudes, they collapsed as a society. And those war fighters, the Katehas, the commandos, the ANH soldiers that were fighting with their leadership to fight back, they were the ones that were left behind that did want to fight. So we published that. And we didn't publish that because it showed an execution, but because it countered a narrative that was out there. As a historical record, no, they should not be surrendering because they're being killed when they surrender. We ended up getting that published on with a tag back to us on, I want to say it was CNN. I want to say CNN picked it up, and they put in the top right corner, per Funker530 footage, people should not be surrendering to the Taliban. And that was a drastic shift in the narrative. That's the best example that I can give for what we do, is we are the historical system of record for use of force. Colazzo. We published that so that when people want to see what a homegrown hero looks like, barreling into a building to save people that he'd never met before, people that he owed nothing to, right? Outside of being a police officer, and we can have that conversation, make arguments about what police officers owe and what they don't, but barreling into that building a detective, right? When people want to see what that looks like, they can come to Funker530 for that. We're not here just to show you death. If I could show you an L-shaped ambush properly executed without any death in it at all, I would do that. I would do that. But I'm going to show you training footage.
Yeah.
You know?
That's on DVids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The application of that, where, you know, no plan survives first contact, the operational application of those lessons that we're getting. People that are still active duty, still doing the thing on the high side. People have heard about the high side. Tell me all the time though. Yeah, we monitor the stuff, we upload it because it's a collection of it, and we can then learn lessons from it.
Yeah. And that's what I think that Funker's doing better than anyone else, is you're holding people accountable as a historical record. And you remove all narrative. It's only informative. The only context you ever find is like additional background context to like shape your understanding of like how long this has been an issue, or, you know, if it's a pattern. Like how can I say this? I never like feel led. Only informed. And that's, you know, don't be like, that's really rare though. Cause a lot of people be like, well, you could say this, and, you know, you could do some Go Rocket mortgage ads, you know, and like, I mean, those are things that would happen, but like the cost is too great. You might not pay it up front, but you will pay. You will pay. Nothing's free. There's no such thing as a free lunch in nature.
Sure.
And I just appreciate at a time where like, there's like 3 or 4 things I do. I can get 1 million views. This thing right here, I can get it to do it. I can get it humming. I don't want to do it. You can do that too. You don't want to do it.
For sure. No, I don't, because I don't even really ever say this, because it's not why I do what I do, but I will never myself have the type of following that a political commentator will. Never. Mm-hmm. I think, and I'm okay with that. Because I know that it doesn't matter what it is that I'm talking about. I am telling you that it is I could be wholly wrong. 100%. I could be 100% wrong with what I'm telling you. But the reason that I'm telling you that is because I believe it. I believe it to be the context at that time, right? I'm not a news anchor, right? I'm not here just working on somebody's script. I'm not here to be your objective, unbiased source of information. So this almost runs counter to what you're saying. Mm-hmm. I am here to tell you the facts as I have them. If those are wrong, I've had to retract stuff before. I've had to do a show 3 weeks later where somebody circled back and said, hey, you had this wrong. And I opened a show for 20 minutes and talked out, hey, I was wrong. Here's the new context, the new information that I have on this. I said before, and somebody actually hated on me for this. I said before, I was like, I'm not afraid to be wrong. I don't want to be, but I'm not afraid to be, right? If I tweet something from the Funker account and it's 100% and it's false, I don't delete that tweet either. I then retweet it to show people I am wrong. Mm-hmm. Because that's something that happens too often too, is they kind of wash away mistakes. Some of these big grifter type accounts, they just wash that away, and it just goes away. And then everybody's like, well,
why are you upset?
You know, everything's fine.
We're good here.
No. Nothing's perfect though. We're still humans at Funker, right? So we still have our predispositions. There is no such thing as an unbiased source. None. It literally doesn't exist. You can have objectivity, though. Yeah. Objectivity is what people want. People talk about bias, but you want objectivity.
That is what you want.
You don't want somebody unbiased, right? That's not what you want. If it was unbiased information, it would be kind of like a gun tuber reading the reading the screen of the manufacturer's website, right? So it has a 4.5-inch barrel length. It fires 9mm. It is 7.4 inches long. Why would you want that?
No. You don't want that.
No. They can be biased and look at that gun objectively still, right? I want to know their bias because I'm tuning into them because of it. because I relate to them. And I relate to them typically because of those foundational elements, those predispositions that make up a bias. That's why I'm tuning in the first place, right? That's why I watch you, because we are basic. I'm taller. I'm not taller than most people. So
You are taller. It's fine.
Well, I'm always standing next to Josh. Josh
Okay.
is 6 foot like fucking a billion.
Yeah, okay.
So everybody's like, "Oh, what are you, a small?" And I'm like, "I'm 5'10".
Yeah. Me too.
No, I get on a soapbox a bit about it because 2013, my first deployment, there was an OPSEC slide and it said, "Don't end up on Funker530."
Ooh.
I'm not kidding. I tell that story all the time.
That's funny.
And here we are.
But look at what you've done with it now. You've made it a place where everyone goes to find truth. And in a time where truth has never been more opinionated, it's something to be proud of. I mean, like literally just since I've known you, like I've seen the growth of what you've done with this, you know, the live shows and everything else, and you're just getting started. And there's so many other things that are coming soon that we've talked about. And I can't wait to see all of them.
Thanks,
To
man.
see where you continue to grow and to where you continue to go, because like it can't be said enough how truly grateful I am for you and what you're doing, not just with this, for gun rights as well. I mean, like,
Yeah, we didn't even touch on gun rights.
and I want to tell you, let's close on gun rights real quick. I want I want you to tell everyone what you're doing for gun rights and fighting for everyone's rights to continue to be a gun owner. But like, I'm truly grateful for you, and I can't say that enough.
Well, I mean, coming from you, that means the world.
Yeah.
And earlier we talked about how Rudy's one of those genuine people. I consider you at the same level of genuine. When you tell me something like that, I mean it.
Yeah,
I can,
because I'm too lazy to lie to you. Like that's my whole thing. Like my wife wishes I had more finesse and I wasn't like brute. Like, I stomp when I walk. I'm just like a monster. But like I mean it, because I don't want to be anything else but honest.
Sure.
It's exhausting having to remember all the lies you tell.
yeah. Then you got to like write them down or something.
Yeah, no, I'm just me.
No, the gun rights is something long before I was ever on YouTube. Well, I was technically on YouTube. Long before I was ever with Funker530, long before I ever had a TV show, long before a live show, I ran 2 businesses.
Yeah.
So I ran a website that's now defunct called wecarry.org. I was gonna write, I actually was a sports writer for a little while. Mm-hmm. So I dipped my toes into that as well. First deployment, I had my debit card changed and the hosting ran out. I actually had grown it really well. It was a Washington Redskins blog, and it was called the Burgundy Warpath. And I had like media creds at one time, and I interviewed like Daryl Green. It was going to be what I was going to do. But then I deployed, and my debit card changed, and the hosting failed, and then they deleted my website. So I was like, all right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Like our whole family was just like, oh, what? Because I got the missus into it. Mm-hmm. We had merch and all kinds of stuff. I started this website called wecarry.org. I was going to do written reviews, firearm reviews. I think I reviewed a couple holsters. Ended up really diving into corporate America, supporting those startup businesses that I talked about. I ended up falling into a manager track. Ended up getting employees. I ended my career in defense contracting with 63 at one time. That was the height of my contract. So that wecarry.org went away. Then I was going to start this business called Shooters Connect. Right. So I had a Facebook page and I had like angel investors that I was going to talk to.
Yeah.
And I got to the first round of meetings, and the first guy was like, first, let me tell you the premise. The premise was going to be Facebook for shooters, for people that wanted to meet up and go shoot and have fun.
This sounds like a hookup website.
And the first guy I got to, he's a big gun guy.
Yeah.
He was like, you understand you're creating a registry of firearms owners, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck. That's not going to work out.
Sharks.
So that kind of fell off, and I grew up shooting I mean, I was probably 8. I actually just tweeted a video out not too long ago, me shooting this little Ruger 22 revolver. Literally the first gun I ever shot. My mom has it now. She brought it over. It's the first time I've shot it in probably 25 years. I grew up hunting, shooting. We were 8, 9 years old. We'd take a Cricket 22 up in Loudoun County, up into the mountains. And we'd shoot everything. We'd shoot turtles, birds, whatever it was. I'm a bad person. Nobody said I was a good person.
Yeah.
I mean, we would shoot all of it.
Yeah.
Including flying birds.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
really not the best application of gun safety. Times were different, I guess. But I grew up with firearms, and I have a different relationship with them. Then I joined the military, and I've been around them forever. And I realized at one point I was like, Funker530 will always be my passion. That's always going to be. I'm the vice president of Funker530. Scott, the owner of Funker530, the president of Funker530, Will, Josh. I mean, there's this core team. Cam, Cole, Ian. There's this core team of dudes that are really, really doing something that there are other elements of my career tie in really well. But one aspect that has always been a part of every kind of content I've ever done, whether it be a gaming stream, I still gaming stream. I do that for charity. We've done like 80 grand worth of custom gaming PCs for veterans from that. A part of every single one of those things was firearms, right? A part of my life all the way back to the very beginning, firearms. Dudley Brown, president of National Association for Gun Rights, asked me to come make a video with him. This would have been like early last year. And it was just going to be like, creator coming up to make a video. It's going to be great.
Hey, Ronnie.
Yeah. That's literally what it was.
Yeah.
Ronnie from Funker530.
Yeah.
And,
You're doing the thing.
And a little bit later on, I was like, how can I support you guys? And he was like, well, just talk about us. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, at one point I was like, what if I came and just like worked for you? What if I took a small salary? And what would you have available to me to actually feel like I am employed and working in the nonprofit space for gun rights? Because they matter so much to me that I'll add that to my plate. Frankly, I will add that to my plate. And he said, well, we could really use somebody to tie us with industry. And I said, what does that mean? He's like, well, we could use somebody that is happy to go out to events on our behalf, set up our booth, run it, talk with this company and that company, tell our story, what we're doing. And if NAGR is a lot of things, we are not very good at marketing ourselves. All we ever do is talk about the problems that are going on that we're trying to solve. NAGR does not do well telling people how awesome we are. So that's another thing that I'm trying to do for us. You'll see a lot of content from me just in the time that I have extra and available coming from that. I have a very full plate right now, and I love everything that I do. I'm launching stuff this year that is going to take these two things that I do, firearms, war, and history, and intersect those together. And it's probably one of the most exciting things that I think I have had since at least the TV show, because the kid from the trailer park getting a call from the History Channel when you grew up watching Army on mail call is a dream come true. This is mine, though. This is the dream, because I get to intersect Funker530, the history of war, combat footage, with firearms, precision rifle, which is a love of mine. I only wish we had more time to talk about, and how they intersect. What's the source? Who are Morgan's rifles? Where did the 4570 come from? What's the modern interpretation of that look like? And does it set aside the spirit of the original? Right? I'm very excited about the things that I'm working on this year. And it's a lot. And I am blessed to have the family and support structure that I have here at home. You met my wife.
Incredible family.
She is everything. My kids are everything. Having people like you helping me navigate some of this stuff, because, again, there are still elements to creation that I'm not tied into, because to be honest with you, over the last 3 years, I've had my head down doing this.
You're doing real work.
I've
been making jokes about boot camp, and you've been like doing real work.
I was still making the jokes about boot camp.
Yeah,
though. Let's be clear.
No.
It's all real work.
Well, but like it's what I always say though, and I don't want to cut you off, but it's us against them. And when I say it's us against them, I mean it's like us against the rest of the world. Like we are coloring outside the lines, and there is no real. You should do this. Like you should look into merchandise. Here's some brand partners.
When somebody asks me what I do for a living, I don't know how to answer that question. I used to be able to say I'm a cybersecurity subject matter expert. I'm a China intel support to operations SME.
Yeah.
You know, I could tell you everything you want to know about Chinese intrusion sets and all the stuff that they're doing against the United States government. That was my job for almost 15 years.
I don't feel like going to sleep tonight. I know it's bad. It's
not good.
It's not good. It's not good.
It's not good. Russia, Iran, China, they are all picking fights.
Not
in
fans?
cyberspace.
Not fans of this?
Weird.
Okay.
That's weird.
Weird.
But a lot more people that you wouldn't expect. North Korea, they're pretty damn good, actually. They, the first to really do computer network attack.
The Sony thing.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
The interview.
Yeah, the interview. Yeah.
So that was that. I mean, that was a huge deal at the time. Once upon a time, I could say that, right? I could say that I was helping put people in jail for using their government IT devices to look at child porn.
Good.
Government IT devices to look at child porn. Yeah. Once upon a time, I could say that I do that.
Face the wall. Like not jail, face the wall.
We're out here in the boonies, so maybe we can just walk out back for a second and handle it that way. There's a reason I did leave that life, though, right? So you get... It's
the same thing. You get exposed to so much.
I felt like I was making an impact, but I didn't feel like I was doing... I wasn't waking up ready to do what I was doing that day, right?
Yeah,
Today, I might not know what I have to do each day, but I know that I have the choice now of 11 different paths. Hopefully, that day I choose the one that helps me inform somebody, entertain somebody, improve myself in some way, or just generally not die, right? Like that's... Hopefully I pick one of those 11 paths that sets me forward on one of those things. And if not, that's fine. Because if I pick each day doing that, then hopefully I've got enough of those wins that I can absorb a loss here and there.
Yeah.
That's what I do every day.
And you're doing it well. And it's truly incredible. I love everything you do. Ronnie, where can they find you online?
Well, you can find all of my personal work on about 27 different places.
Yeah.
So Ronnie Adkins _, on Twitter and on Instagram. I have a couple personal channels. Google's probably the easiest and fastest way to find my most prominent work. But Funker530 and National Association for Gun Rights. Those are two things. Those are my loves. There's a reason that I will never stop doing Funker530 work, and there's a reason that I took on another job to work in gun rights when I had a choice.
Yeah.
I had a choice of which organization to support because I wasn't job hunting. It was, I want to do it. That's where you'll find me.
And we need you to do it because I know what you do now. You tell stories.
I do.
You tell stories. And without people to tell the stories, we can never really learn any lessons. So I truly appreciate everything you do. You've been so kind and gracious to me. I love you. Thank you for having me. And thank you for joining us here on this episode of the After Action Podcast.
Thanks, buddy.
Later.